Johnny Bravo, one of the shows that kicked off Cartoon Network's boom period in the mid-90s. Most people like this show, and it's one of the first shows that comes to mind whenever the topic of 90s Cartoon Network is brought up. To this day, people still remember Johnny Bravo and his rather striking personality, and that one Scooby-Doo crossover. But another thing was, well, this man was a simp. He might be the biggest simp in the history of cartoons. Maybe. Pepe Le Pew and Mordecai are close competitors for that title. This man wanted any woman breathing the same air as him, and it never worked in his favor. Johnny would immediately hit on these ladies just for it to blow up in his face. Since he's one of those Andrew Tate pickup artist, Sigma male type dudes, it's even funnier when his strategies fail. Needless to say, he wasn't getting any women with his personality. At least not human women. Little did Johnny know, there would be a plethora of anthropomorphic ladies who definitely wanted his attention. Whatever the human ladies weren't putting down, the furry chicks were picking up. So let's go back and see what was going on between Johnny Bravo and anthro women. This is gonna be my weirdest video, I can already tell. Alright, so I don't think I need to go into detail about what anthro characters are. You're literally looking at one. They've been in almost every cartoon that existed since before most of us were even born. Just cartoon animals that stand on two legs and act like humans. Not much else to it. There's also the furry fandom, but I'm not going into that today. Anyways, let's start with one of Johnny's most well-known dates, Carol the Antelope. She appeared in an episode simply titled A Date with an Antelope. In this episode, Carol meets Johnny via online dating services. That's right, y'all. Instead of bots like nowadays, there were animals using online dating. Johnny is of course caught off guard by a literal antelope at his door. He still agrees to date Carol, so I guess it didn't bother him that much. But like I said earlier, this man wanted anybody, regardless of species.
Bestiality sex.
She can't drive either, shocker. Why do these Hanna-Barbera cartoons keep letting animals drive? You're lucky Bubbles wasn't there. So they proceed to go out on a dinner date. And this is where Johnny finds out the truth about Carol. It turns out that she was just using Johnny that whole time in order to make her ex-boyfriend, who is a crab, jealous. Johnny sums this episode up pretty well with this quote.
Just keeps getting weirder and weirder.
I don't really know what to think of this episode. I knew this was gonna be weird from the start, but I was still not used to seeing an antelope in the show. Doesn't even really count as anthro since it doesn't stand on two legs. He was literally dating a normal animal. I don't like that. I can't co-sign that.
I can't co-sign that, big brother.
So where would I rank Carol on the scale of Johnny's anthro girlfriends? Obviously the lowest tier. Yes, I'm actually ranking this. The relationship was already weird from the start, but the fact that this was just a front to make her ex jealous just made it even worse. Moral of the story here is don't do online dating. But something interesting is mentioned during their date.
I can deal with that. Say he ain't a moose or anything, is he?
Johnny mentions a moose. Remember that for later. Okay, so Carol isn't the worst one on the list. It's actually the next character I'm talking about. So, Johnny Bravo dated an ape. That's literally all there is to it. It was in an episode titled Ape is Enough. Johnny meets a giant female ape. The episode contains vor, this is still weird, and that's all I can find online. At least Carol could speak. I'm putting this one in the F tier. I'm sure other people might find this interesting, but I just don't care for this one. Moving on. Now on to another well-known entry. This is Fluffy the Werewolf. Her first and only appearance was in the episode titled A Wolf in Chick's Clothing. Once again, Johnny finds himself looking through a paper at the dating ads. Can't really imagine how else he spends his free time. He finds one that, despite sounding vaguely suspicious, still hooks him in. Like I said, man, he's committed to this stuff. So Johnny and Fluffy eventually meet, and from the start everything seems normal. Fluffy actually turns out to be a human lady. They both already like each other right off the bat, but Fluffy asking for dog biscuits should have been a sign of things to come for Johnny. Because not too long after they meet, the full moon comes out, and Fluffy turns into a werewolf.
Pretty dang romantic, huh? Hello!
Boy, ain't no way, boy.
Now, for some of you out there, this might be considered an upgrade, and technically this is breaking the rules since she is a human during the day, but whatever. Fluffy explains that she's a werewolf, but once again Johnny doesn't mind. But just because Johnny didn't have an issue with it, didn't mean the general public wouldn't. They try to go on a dinner date while keeping Fluffy disguised, however the cover is blown and everyone in the restaurant dips. This continues to happen at every place they go to. I mean, come on, they didn't have an issue with an antelope in a restaurant. But yeah, this continues until the morning when Fluffy changes back to normal. Now, here's where it gets weird. On Wednesday specifically, Fluffy has another transformation.
On Wednesdays, I change into an annoying little bald man named Melvin who collects stamps.
She turned into a Reddit mod. Again, this was already weird from the beginning, but the show just upped the weirdness by 10. And that's where this episode basically ends. I'll rank Fluffy at an alright B tier. I just find this whole episode and relationship to be absurd. But on the scale of Anthro ladies, she doesn't look so bad. Anyways, let's move on from this. One character I wanted to briefly mention is Foxy Nurse. She never actually dated Johnny, but she was another Anthro he seemed to like. As for her design, somebody was having quite a time designing her. Not much else to say about her. On to the last one. And for the last entry, here's a character that's gained a fair bit of recognition on the internet over the years, and it's not hard to see why. Meet Becky the Moose. I never thought I would make a video about her, but here we are. In my opinion, this is Johnny's most interesting Anthro girlfriend, or wife in this case. The plot is actually insane, so stay with me here. So, this episode is titled Wilderness Protection Program. The episode begins with Johnny doing his usual workout stuff until he gets a ring at the door. He gets a visit from a cow woman. I don't mean that in a derogatory way, that's literally what happened.
What do you mean by that?
She tells Johnny that he's been selected to receive a partner from the Witness Protection Program. Literally the best news he could have gotten. He's getting a girl and he didn't even have to put in any work. However, as expected, it's not a human wife. And right after he signs the paperwork, he is then introduced to a rather large moose woman named Becky. Apparently, she was on the run from the mob, and the contract stated that Becky and Johnny must pretend to live as a family of elephants in disguise. But before any of the real hijinks can occur, this happens.
Little help!
Stuck moose.
Now, look, I'm not normally the kind of person to chime in on the thickness of cartoon ladies, but I don't even think Elastigirl got stuck in the door like that. Elastigirl got nothing on Becky. Anyways, they both begin living as elephants while Becky does the stereotypical suburban wife things. And even as this is going on, Johnny is still hitting on other women he runs into. Though this part was funny.
Johnny Bravo-Jones, what are you doing? You're a married elephant!
Now this is where the plot gets very dumb yet entertaining. Becky finds a puzzle piece stuck to her belly, assuming it was from the mob. And so, from this one puzzle piece, which is essentially nothing, Johnny and Becky, with a combined brain cell of one, spend hours trying to figure out some type of secret meaning behind the puzzle piece. They eventually come to the outlandish conclusion that the mob is coming to steal honey from the bears in the forest and give it to moles in order to take over the world. I really can't explain in words how they got to this conclusion. If you want to see this for yourself, you'll just have to find the episode and watch it. It's very stupid, and that's all I'll say. Johnny and Becky eventually go to a forest and try to explain everything to the bears, and it goes about as well as you'd expect. That is, until the mob eventually finds Becky in the forest. And as you could probably predict, there was no mob after her. This whole time, these guys were just trying to return her purse she left behind. The guys came from the lodge she worked at. But remember the puzzle piece? Somehow it ends up playing a role in the end of the episode. As it turns out, the owner of the lodge, I think, was missing that puzzle piece, and it was the only piece needed to finish the puzzle. So they returned it and everything went fine. My question is, how did that piece get on Becky's stomach though? This guy clearly works on that puzzle in a private room away from the dining area, while Becky was a waitress working in the dining area. Unless he was doing some other kind of work with Becky in there, and that's how the puzzle piece got stuck. I mean, I can't even blame him though, you saw that door, man. Okay, I'll stop. But that's pretty much how this episode ends. It's another one of those episodes where the plot is all over the place, but it's at least fun to watch. It's like a fun train wreck. As for Becky, she's actually a very nice character. She might not be the smartest, or skinniest, but she's dedicated to figuring out problems. It sucks that this was the only episode she was in. I could have easily seen her being a recurring character in the show, though it's never said if she split up with Johnny. I'm putting her in the A tier. I'm sure some will disagree, but Becky was the best Anthro girl in the show. Just my opinion, and my face afterwards. But that pretty much wraps up this rather weird video. I did not expect to make this at all, but it's something new, I guess. Thanks for watching this video. I just want to take this moment to also thank you all for helping me reach 2,000 subscribers. It didn't take me a decade to get there like it did for 1,000 subs. I'm glad to see all of the positive feedback I've been getting on my videos, and all the different topics you guys have been suggesting. As always, don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more content, and stay tuned.